Hello and welcome to level 5. This is a progression from level 4. Start lying on your back, grab your knees into knee hugs, gently drawing your knees in towards your chest. About 5 of these, just opening the lower back, and then open the knees apart, keep your feet towards one another. 5 little pulses, opening the hips, and then into a supine hip flexor stretch. So right knee towards your chest, left leg out, breathing into the lungs, and then hamstring stretch. Grab hold of the calf, 5 breaths there, pressing the knees away from you. Breathing into the ribs and the lungs. Now grab hold of the opposite hand and then draw the legs slightly across. The hips are still square to the ceiling, and we're stretching out the lateral part of the leg. Back through center, draw the leg towards you, switching sides. So I just like to start with this just to take the time to open up the legs, to open the hips, to connect to your body and your breath. And think of pressing the knees away from you, the right knee down to the floor and the left knee towards where the ceiling and the wall meet, so the legs are active. Drawing the belly up and the shoulders down. ITB, grab hold of the opposite hand, draw the leg across and up towards your opposite shoulder, keeping the hips square and just noticing where you feel that in the leg. Now set yourself up, pubic bone, navel and nose in one line, shoulder bridge with pulses. Tuck the tailbone up to the ceiling, extend the right leg up towards the ceiling, lower and lift the pelvis. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause there, plant the foot down, lift the other leg up, and we're tapping into the back of the legs. The challenge here is to keep the hips square to the ceiling and plant the foot down. Tuck the tailbone up to the ceiling and then sequentially rolling through the spine. We're going to do one more set. So this is to open up the spine, to get into the back of the legs, challenge the pelvic stability. Pressing the wrists down into the mat will help you connect to your shoulder stability and your lats. And plant that foot down. Imagine there's a tennis ball between the knees. So the knees are apart, but the inside thighs are active. Lifting with the back of the legs as opposed to your lower back. So think ribs to hips as well. And then rolling down, imagining that tennis ball's between the knees. Knees and feet together, fully interlace the hands behind the head. Curl ups with single, double toe tap. Lift the knees up into toe tap, into tabletop rather. Lift your head and your chest up. Pause there, now tap one toe down, back up. Other toe down, back up, and then both legs as one, and then back up. And then lower the head down, and then do a curl up, and then alternating which leg you lead with, do the single taps, and then both legs down and up, and then lower the head down. Breathing out to lift up, breathing in to prepare, breathing out to tap, into lift, out to tap, into lift, out to tap, into lift, and then lower down. Now the challenge here is to lift your head and your chest up, lift your shoulders up by pressing the lower ribs down, and then pelvic stability, and then making sure that your lumbar stays nice and stable as the toes tap down to the floor. Really working the internal obliques by zipping your tummy up and the external obliques by pressing the lower rib cage down. Anywhere between 4 to 8 sets. Really great way to warm up your abs, to warm up your thoracic spine, and to really challenge that pelvic stability. Well done. Have a little rest. And into oblique curl-ups with toe taps. Same start position, knees in tabletop, hands behind your head, head and chest lifted. Now alternate. As you tap one toe down, you reach the opposite elbow and armpit towards the knee. We're going to do about 12 to 14 of these. Pelvic stability. And once again, working those external obliques by really pressing the back of the ribs down. Just relaxing there. Pendulum. Legs are straight, arms at stop sign. Roll over onto one hip, lifting the opposite hip up, and then return back to center. Roll to the other side and then back to center. Breathing in to roll, breathing out to return. Breathing in to roll, breathing out to return. Only roll within a range that opposite shoulder stays plugged down into the mat. We're working your shoulder stabilizing muscles. Obviously the obliques are working. And then the challenge here is to actually really keep your heels and your big toes, inside thigh muscles contracted, and also co-contract the back of the legs, the hip extensors. And by pressing the heels together, that'll help aid that connection. Rolling onto your side into chalk circles, straight line from hip to shoulders. Circle the arm down, around, and over your head. 4 to 6 of these in this direction, then you reverse. One of the challenges here is to keep the head and neck very relaxed. So you roll from the side of the skull to the back of the skull. So you get the rotation all the way through to the neck and then reverse it. It's such a beautiful, relaxing exercise. And it's called chalk circles because you want to imagine there's a piece of chalk in your hand and you're drawing a circle on the floor around your body, stretching your pecs, stretching the thoracic and the obliques. Excellent. Okay, line yourself up. I like to use the back of the mat so I know I'm straight. Hips and shoulders in line with the back of the mat. Top leg in line with the hip, L legs. So the foot is in line with the hip. Activate the hamstring, zip your tummy up, and then raise the leg up and then return to hip height. 2, 3, leading with the heel. 4, gets into the glute med. 6, we're doing 10. 7, 8, pelvic stability. 9, underneath rib lifted. 10, and now forward, up, down and back. Forward, up, down and back. 10 of these. The challenge here is to keep the foot in line with the hip. Don't allow the leg to go down past the hip socket. Our target area are the obliques and the hip abductors, and then engage the hip extensors there. That's a challenge. So imagine you're pressing the heel back against a force behind you. And lifting the foot up, not by using your back or momentum, but by using your deep glute muscles. Flexing the foot and really straightening the knee helps engage your quads. And then 10 out in front. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep going. Okay, use your muscles, not momentum. Pelvic stability, no rolling back and forth on that underneath hip. Reach it back and then down. Well done. Other side. Chalk circles. It's a nice little rest in between those strength exercises. So the hand goes over the hip first. 4 to 6 of these, rolling the head from the back of the skull to the side of the skull. And when the arm goes on this diagonal bit, that can be where it can get really sticky. Stretching pec minor. And reversing it, 4 to 6. Using gravity and your intention to relax your arm and your head to stretch and mobilize your body. Breathing through the sticky bits. Softening through them. Into long leg lifts. Line yourself up with the back of the mat. Pelvis, shoulders in line. Bottom knee bent to help you stabilize. And that top leg, the foot is in line with your hip. Hip extensors engaged, so the back of the leg. Right waist is lifted. From there, you raise the leg up and down within a range that you can keep the leg parallel. 4, we're doing 10, 5. Now lift the heel up from the deep outside hip muscles. Not momentum, not by hiking your hip, not by using your back. And then L, forward and back. So you go forward, lift, down and back. Okay, so once again, pelvic stability. Quads are working, hip abductors, and then hip extensors here. So really pressing that heel back into the space to activate the hamstring. I like to think of pressing the thigh bone back towards the sit bone there. It moves away from the sit bone and then it presses towards the sit bone. Check into your neck and your upper traps, soften them. Check into your breathing and your centering. Always moving from our deep abdominal muscles. Underneath side lifted and then 10 out in front. Now it's quite hard to know if you're keeping your pelvis stable, so check into the movement, the pressure of that underneath hip against the mat. Try and keep it consistent, no rolling back and forward. And return to the start and then lower back down. Okie dokie, into one of my favourite exercises, thigh stretch. This is a traditional exercise. Knees are sit bone width apart. Legs are parallel. Neutral pelvis, you hinge back and then you return back to the knees. Breathing in to hinge and breathing out to return. Glutes and hamstrings are engaged. We're doing 4 of these and then we're going to add in rotation. Really important that you keep your ribs to hip connection there. I'll even look down at my pubic bone sometimes to aid that. Arms out and then rotate to your right heel, return above your knees. Rotate to the left heel, return. And thinking rib to hip and hamstrings and glutes. Co-contraction of the buttocks and the deep abdominals. Thighs are working, pivoting in the knees and not the lower back. Lunge stretch. Left leg forward, right leg back and straight. Holding this here for 5 breaths. I like to come up onto my fingertips here so that you stay active and engaged in the stretch. So it's an isometric contraction. The right butt cheek is really engaged here so that we open up the psoas. There's energy going from the top of the head through to the heel and you're light on your fingertips so you work that left leg. Pyramid, pop that back leg forward and then drop the head down. If you've got tight calves, you might need to turn your right foot out slightly, but make sure that the hips are square towards the mat. I'm pressing the heels of my hands into the floor here to get into my external obliques, those rib to hip connection. And it's like you're imprinting your lower spine up towards the ceiling so you're not just flopping over the leg. Step that leg forward, lunge on the other side. So here the legs are sit bone width apart, but you're thinking of squeezing the inside thighs in towards one another once again so that your muscles are engaged in the stretch. Left butt cheeks engaged, left quad is engaged, light on your fingertips so you feel the right leg engaged. Breathing 1 breath at a time, holding it for 5 breaths, which is 30 seconds. And then pyramid. So pop that leg forward. Once again, if you've got tight ankles and calves, you might want to just turn that left foot out slightly on a 30-degree angle, but then angle the left hip down towards the right knee so that your sacroiliac joints are parallel. We don't want the hips to be rotated towards the left here, otherwise the ligaments get strained in your sacroiliac joints. Roll like a ball. We're balancing between the coccyx and your sit bones. Hold on to your feet and then imprint and then lead with the head. And it doesn't matter, we are aiming to balance on your buttocks, but the main thing is that you keep the curve, the tuck of the tail towards your face. Now, contract your buttocks will help you posteriorly tilt. You might even want to move your hands apart just to really challenge you whilst maintaining that shape. Otherwise, lightly touching the heels, balancing on your buttocks is the goal. And we're rolling, massaging out the lower back and the thoracic. Well done. Rolling onto your... We're going into a supine twist stretch. Place the pelvis over to your left, lift your left knee up and rotate to your right. I like to sort of stroke my back just to iron out the back, do a tiny little micro movement of extension. And then back through center, shift the pelvis to the right, grab hold of the right knee, roll. And then once again, I just like to do these little tiny micro movements of extension and flexion there, stroking the back, but do what feels right for you. Into good old hundreds, so signature Pilates exercise, knees and feet together, arms over your head without popping the ribs up. Lift your knees into chair. Breathe in to prepare, breathe out to lift up, and then extend the legs out. Now pulse your arms as you lower 2, 3, 4, 5 and lift 2, 3, 4, 10. Lower 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in to lift. Good. Now keep the heels and the big toe touching, like pressing together so you work your inside thighs. Try and activate the hamstrings, the hip extensors, by pressing your heels together and gently activating your sit bone muscles. Now, of course, the pulsing heats our body up, but it's also challenging our torso stability, our shoulder stability. Can you keep pulling those armpits down towards the hips to activate and stabilize through your upper body? Place the feet down and then return to the start position. We're doing some rock and roll, so you grab hold of the back of the thighs and you just rock and roll 3 times. Don't worry about technique there, just getting up. Grab the TheraBand, place it around your feet. Feet are pushing against or pressing apart as you roll back down. The legs are apart, you're imprinting your lower back, your hamstrings are engaged. Now lift up. Now as you go through the sticky bit, tuck your tailbone up. We're doing a little pulse on the way up. It's 4-point roll-ups. And then as you roll down, you're going to imprint your bra line down, lift, and then return back to the start position. So you breathe out to do a little pulse up, down, and roll. Breathing in to pause, keep active here, and then breathing out to sequentially roll and then do a little lift and then back down. Keep your muscles on when you return to the start position. Okay, so this is beautiful for the thoracolumbar area. Here I'm really imprinting my lower spine back. Sit bones to the back of the thighs to help activate the hamstrings to posteriorly tilt the pelvis. And then sliding the rib cage down towards the hips to get into the obliques, external and internal. And then rolling down, doing a little pulse. So very strengthening for your abs. And really beautiful for opening up where your thoracic spine connects to your lower back. Here I'm activating the legs. The whole time the legs are active, from the feet right up through the back of the legs. Well done. Now into corkscrew prep. So lying on your back, arms down by your side, legs up towards the ceiling and legs glued together. Now lift your tailbone and your legs up to the ceiling, popping them up, and then roll onto your left hip. Hinge the legs, roll onto your right hip, return to the start position. Breathe out and then breathing in, breathing out, breathing in and breathing out. So you alternate which side you roll to first. Okay, now the challenge here is when your legs hinge away, you must keep your lower back and lower ribs imprinted into the floor. Squeezing your buttocks, working the hamstrings, and then activate the core and the back of the legs as the legs hinge away. So when done correctly, you actually feel like when your legs are hinging away, you're actually tractioning out through the hips because there's a co-contraction of the back of the legs and your abdominals. Stabilizing, of course, through the upper body really helps activate the obliques. Glute stretch, right ankle across your left thigh. Holding it here for about 5 deep breaths. Maybe rolling onto your left hip. Holding the stretch, feeling it in different fibers. Check into your upper body. I like to just do little pulses or rocks left and right. And now lift your head and your chest up, trying to draw your forehead towards your shin without hunching your shoulders up. Keep the collarbones down. And then after 5 deep breaths there, we'll do the other side. Okay, so crossing the other leg over, grab hold. You might notice a difference from side to side there. Feet are flexed so that you keep your shin muscles engaged to protect your knees. Anchoring the tailbone down, anchoring the back of the neck down. Roll onto your right hip if you'd like to, massaging out the left hip. Sending the breath into the area that you feel the tightness and just breathing around that. Back through center now, lift up, pull the collarbones down, working the biceps and your abs to draw your forehead towards your shin. Keep anchoring the tailbone down towards the mat. Deep breaths there. Try and lift up 1 millimeter higher and then lower down. Okay, more abdominals. So single leg stretch, head and chest lifted. Extend one leg and then the other. The knee that's bending, you're reaching that same arm towards the ankle. Knee bends, that same arm reaches towards the ankle, just to help you really get that external oblique connection. Check into your stabilizing muscles in your shoulders. Double leg stretch. Feet together, knees apart, hands on the knees. Lift up, the legs are in a V. Reach the arms over and around. Reach and then lower down. Breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and then breathing in. 6 to 8 of these. Keep those legs in external rotation, pressing the heels together to work the adductors and the hamstrings. Now, when the arms circle around, the challenge is not to drop your upper body down at all. So only reach the arms over within a range that you can keep your forehead like it's still in space. And then the more stable you get, the more you can reach your arms over your head. Wrap the thighs. Drop the collarbones, squeeze everything into the center line and then return. Well done. Scissors. Right leg up, left leg down, pulse the leg towards you. 2, switching. 3, look towards your belly. 4, do the switch without the tummy puffing out. 5. 6, using the thigh and your tummy muscles to draw your shin towards your face and then giving a little pull of the calf to get a stretch. Rest. I like to clasp the hands over the knees. Double leg lowers. Head and chest lifted, arms down by your side, legs are up, and then lower and lift the legs within a range that you stay engaged in your core and not using your back. So we're pivoting in the hip sockets. The inside thighs are pressing together. The quads are engaged, and you might want to hold your hands behind your head, or you can keep your arms down by your side. Okay, only lowering them down within a range that you can keep the co-contraction of the back of the legs and the abs. We're going to finish off this series with crisscross. Knees in chair, head and chest lifted, and then we're going to twist towards the opposite knee. Okay, now the challenge here is to actually not just roll from shoulder to shoulder. You want to actually be lifting both shoulders off, so it's like you're on your bra line, and then from there you lift like one side of the bra line up at a time. Awesome. Now flip over onto your tummy and we'll do some back extension work. Stingray. We're lying on our stomach, arms are down by your side, palms are down towards the floor. Legs are lifted, chest is lifted, and now beat your legs together as the arms circle over your head and then back down by your side. Up, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down. 2, 3, 4, 5, up, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down. 2, 3, 4, 5. So pulsing the legs together, working the groin muscles. Okay, it's a pelvic stability exercise, so no arching in the lower back and moving through the pelvis. Also, as the arms circle up and down, we want to get that beautiful lateral rotation and then medial rotation through your shoulder blades. And the challenge in that exercise is to really keep that core engaged. Single heel kick, 2 kicks of the right leg, 2 kicks of the left leg. Now I'm really focusing on imprinting my pubic bones strongly into the floor, almost like I'm trying to lift my hip bones at the front off. And then extend, lift, kick, kick, extend, lift, kick, kick, extend from the hamstrings. Extend from the glutes. Support your lower back by engaging glutes and abs. Pressing the elbows down into the mat to get a lift up out of your chest. The breastbone is reaching forward, but the rib cage is drawing down towards the hips to engage the obliques. And rest. It's a tough exercise, that one. Now we're going to grab the magic circle and we're going to do prone magic circle series. Put the magic circle between your ankles, knees and feet a hip width apart, hands underneath your forehead. You're in a neutral pelvis and spine, really imprinting your pubic bone down, lifting your tummy up, scapula stabilized. With the knees bent at 90, you're going to squeeze the legs together 10 times. 9. So we're squeezing, we're thinking of drawing the knees and the ankles together from the groin. 8. 7. The hamstrings are contracted consistently throughout. The glutes are contracted consistently throughout. And it's your adductors that are pressing the ankles in towards the magic circle. The challenge here is to not use your back extensors and to anteriorly tilt the pelvis. So keep imprinting the pubic bone down, drawing the navel up. 10 of these. Now lift the head and the chest up and lift the knees up. And we do 10 of those. So we're going to thoracic extension. We go into hip extension. You're not pressing the magic circles really hard, okay? So there's a slight pressure of the inside thighs pressing the magic circle, but it's more about the extension of the hips and the thoracic spine. Think of reaching and now hold it up there and then press the ankles together 10 times using the inside thighs. So we're holding the knees off, we're holding the thoracic up, we're imprinting the pubic bone down, drawing the hips towards the ribs to get into the internal obliques. 10 of them, and then lower down. Put the magic circle to the side and rest for a moment. And then we're going to go into rocking prep. Grab your ankles and flex your feet. Now, ribs to hips here, pubic bone imprinted, so you're neutral in your pelvis and your spine as best as you can. Feet are flexed. Now you're going to press the feet back and lift your chest up and then return to the start position. Breathing in to extend and then breathing out. Don't just lower down, but think of the abdominals contracting and the buttocks contracting. Externally rotate the arm bones and then internally rotate the arm bones. From a neutral hip position, you're going into hip extension and there's slight abduction because we are going into a deep extension in the lower back. So you want your knees slightly apart and your feet are apart. And you go from knee flexion into knee extension, really working the thighs, the glutes, the external rotators, and then the core here. I'm working hard in that start and end position. Press back into a transition through child's pose. Really enjoy it, not here for long. Knees out, reach out, expand the ribs, really open up the armpits. Into spine stretch with extension. Legs are mat width apart, feet are flexed, buttocks contracted there. Now curve forward, then extend out, and then curve forward, and then return back to the start position. The legs are active the whole time. Now you're thinking ribs to hips here, and then extend the sit bones back, and then bring the sit bones back underneath your pelvis, contract your glutes, and then elongate up out of the sit bones. Imprint the lower ribs back, shine the headlights of your hips down towards your thighs, shine the headlights of the hips towards parallel, and then back to center. So hip bones towards the floor, and then in this curve position, the hip bones return to horizontal plane and then lift. The legs are fully active there. Now into rollovers, lying on your back, arms down by your side about the width of the mat, really working the arms throughout this next exercise. Your legs are up towards the ceiling and your inside thighs are engaged by pressing the legs together. So lifting the legs up, pressing the heels and the big toes together. Now sequentially roll, keep your legs parallel to the floor, flex the feet, separate them. Now the toes go down, roll down sequentially through the spine, imprint the lower back, hinge the legs away, bring them together, and then return. Now lift your tailbone and roll through the spine onto the thoracic. Try not to go up onto your neck. And then rolling down sequentially, contracting the abs. Now as the legs hinge away, imprint the lower back so that the obliques are engaged. Glutes are engaged, hamstrings, inside thighs. Flex, separate, toes go down, staying on your thoracic, on your shoulders. And then one vertebrae at a time, rolling down through the spine. Hinge away and then back to center. Now we're going to reverse it. So the legs hinge away, separate them shoulder width apart, roll over, flex your feet, bring your legs together, then the toes go down towards the floor, and then rolling through the spine, controlling on the way down by pressing the arms down, by contracting the tummy. Now hinge the legs away, contracting the back of the legs, imprinting the lower ribs. The legs return to vertical, rolling over, rolling from the tailbone through to the shoulders, legs together, flex, toes go down, and then rolling. Trying to use your quads and your thighs and your abdominals rather to keep your legs as close as you can. One more, so the legs are apart. Draw them together and then toes go down and then rolling down with control. Really folding at the hips. Beautiful stretch for the thoracic. And then make sure you finish the exercise off. So Hinge the legs away and return the legs apart. Feet down, roll onto your side. I'm going to take my socks off here because it's a bit slippery on this mat. For the next exercise, we're doing side reach with twist. So top leg in front of the bottom leg. On an oblique angle, you're in a neutral position. Extend your legs and then rotate to the back ankle. Return to neutral and then bend your knees and lightly place the hips down on the mat. Breathing out, breathing in to hinge, breathing out to rotate, breathing in to return. So pulling the armpit down towards the hip, rotating, return to neutral, and then lightly place the hip down. About 6 to 8 of these. Folding at the hip, return hips to shoulders in line, and then back down, other side. So it's the torso shoulder stability that's a big challenge in this. From this position here, scapula are stabilized. And then you reach out, shoulder over wrist, fold at the hip, return to that position, and then here, this is the challenging bit, returning, keeping the scapula stabilized. Obliques, rotate, back to neutral, and then control. Stabilize the trunk, fold, drop your head down, return like you're in between two sheets of glass. Lift, very strengthening for your torso. Okay, and then lowering back down with control, stabilizing through that right side. Into torpedo, lying straight from feet all the way through to the head. Underneath side lifted, legs are together, top arm up to the ceiling, stabilize through the torso. Lift both legs, flex both feet, top leg 1, 2, 3, hold the leg there and then bottom to top. 2, 3 with the legs together, point, lift and then lower down with length. Again, flex and abductors while stabilizing the pelvis. Inside thighs. Reach and then lightly place the legs down so you keep those internal obliques engaged. Torso stability and pelvic stability. Lift and lower. We're doing 6 of these. Hip extensors engaged, so draw the sit bones down to the back of the thighs there. Bottom to top from the groin and reach and lightly place the legs down. 2 more. Armpit down towards the hip, lower rib cage is lifted, and you want to make sure that you've got those hip to rib connections there so you're not using your back to stabilize but rather the front body, and reach. 2, 3 and bottom to top. 2, 3 with the legs together, reach and then lightly place the legs down. Other side. So lining yourself up, feet, pelvis, shoulders, head, hand, all in one line. Top arm up to the ceiling, stabilize by anchoring both armpits down towards the hips, right rib lifted. Lift legs, flex and parallel leg. 2, 3. Hold it there, lower the bottom leg down, bring it to the top. 3, legs together, reach and then lightly lower the legs down. Obliques. And then hip abductors, 2, 3, and then adductors, 2, 3, and then obliques, lower down. So we're concentrically engaging the obliques. And a bit wobbly there, so it is actually quite challenging to stay balanced on the hip. Make sure that the hip bones stay square to the wall that you're facing as opposed to lifting the legs up and rotating the hip bones up towards the ceiling. Using the back of the legs and the front of the abdominals there, the front of the torso, to stabilize the trunk. Heels and big toe joints touching, and then reach. 2, 3, sit bones to back of the thighs. 3, 2, 1, heels and toes touching, reach, and then lightly place them down. It's actually a really challenging exercise to stay balanced there, and doing 6 sets is very strengthening. Grab the magic circle and you're lying side on in a straight line. Magic circle intermediate side lie leg series, inside thigh squeeze, pressing the top leg down to the bottom leg. 2, 3, 4, 5, heels leading the way. 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. Stabilize through the pelvis, stabilize through the trunk. We're doing 20 of these. Now into half moon, tap, lift, and then to the back. Hip flexion, abduction, hip extension. Lead with the big toe down to the floor so that the leg is in internal rotation to get into glute med. 10 of these. Lifting the leg up from the hip socket as opposed to hiking the pelvis or moving the waist. 10 of them. And then into circles. So feet flexed, legs engaged, lift the leg up and then back, forward, down and around. 2, 10 of these. 3, parallel leg is the challenge. 4, 5, really drawing the back of the legs down towards the heels. 6, 7, move the thigh, not the rest of your body. 10 of those and then reverse it. Make sure you do go into hip extension. Activate the back of the leg, stabilizing through the obliques by zipping your tummy up, pubic bone up towards the navel. 10 of them and then into abduction. Circling, smooth circle and then into abduction. Press the ankle up into the magic circle, feet fully activated, legs fully activated, and press the foot up to the magic circle, trying to go from like a circle to like a oval shape. And then top leg on top, legs in slight external rotation. Then we do adduction, the bottom to top. Heels kiss, inside thighs are lifting the heel up to the top leg. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We do 10 of those and then we squeeze the heels together, squeeze the calves together, squeeze the inside thighs together, and then back down. Super satisfying. Other side. Inside, underneath leg inside the magic circle, the other leg on top. The legs are in slight external rotation for the first one and we do 20. Legs are turned out. And then neutral pelvis, neutral spine. And then you're going to press the top leg down, 20, 19, 18, 17, using your muscles, not momentum. So don't just let the magic circle bounce. You want to squeeze it down. Think of leading with the heels towards one another. 20 of those. And then point the feet and then half moon. 2. It's like you're dipping your big toe into a tin of paint, so you lead with the big toe. And this will target the hip abductors, glute med. And trying to move the leg as smoothly forward and back as possible in that arc shape whilst keeping very still on that underneath hip. So drawing the waist in and up, lengthening out of the pelvis with the spine. 10 of those. It's a balance challenge. And then top leg underneath. And top leg is inside the magic circle. And you're doing circles, forward, up, down, around. 2, keeping really parallel with the legs. 3, 4, make sure you don't miss the back part. 5, 6, driving energy from the sit bones down through the back of the legs, out through the heels. And then you're reaching the torso in the opposite direction and then reverse. 10, the back of the leg brings the foot back and then up and forward. No movement of the hip bones down to the floor or up to the ceiling. Really keep them square to the side wall. And then abduction, pressing the leg 10 times into the magic circle. It's quite a small movement if you're really keeping those legs parallel. And then adduction, bottom to top, 2. Reach through the feet, reach through your legs. Inside thighs are reaching out, 10 of those. And then squeeze the heels, squeeze the calves, squeeze the inside thighs, work the back of the legs, and then lower back down. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date and get notified when it's released. Thanks for watching, and remember, movement is medicine.